Wide outs. Welcome to Ohio Stadium for the last time in the regular season, where all of the attention on the Pregame Keys is going to be on the fact that Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate are both officially out of this game against Rutgers. So we must start there. Welcome to the Pregame Keys. He's Jeremy Birmingham. I am Austin Ward, and there's so much for Ohio State to celebrate. They're undefeated. They have senior day. They're rolling. The run game's getting things going, and everything else is going to be consumed by the two best receivers in America not playing.
Yeah, it's kind of appropriate, I think, for the morning. It's a little gray. Eventually the sun's going to come out, the football will happen, and everything will be normal for those 3 hours. But everybody in Ohio State's fan environment, the atmosphere, is going to be wondering, what does this mean for next week? And to say, like, we have to start here because Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate are not playing today doesn't actually give any answers for next week. So we're going to continue to just say, well, we'll see, because really for us, it's about watching these guys walk in today. They did not look particular. Like last week, I thought Carnell Tate looked healthier walking down the field than Jeremiah Smith did, who ended up playing and will not play today. So we'll see. It also is interesting and worth noting that Desi Jones and Quincy Porter, Ohio State's two freshman receivers, are also out today. So big day for Brandon Ennis, Mylan Graham, Bryson Rogers, David Adolph, and maybe Phillip Bell. Who knows? That's why you recruit all these receivers, right? So last couple of years, everyone says, well, why do you keep recruiting other receivers? And now here's an explanation why.
Because you're going to need them. And Ryan Day was saying that even before the injuries popped up, that Ohio State was going to need their depth at wide receiver. And if you are, we mentioned this throughout the week, if you have the best top to bottom wide receiver unit in the country, those next wave of guys need to be able to step up. Now, Quincy Porter, of that, third, fourth guy below the depth chart, was the one that was closest to helping Ohio State. So his absence, I don't think that's less than ideal for him. It's certainly manageable, again, against Rutgers and a porous rush defense. Ohio State should be able to get through this one. I think the reason why this will dominate the discussion, as you mentioned, is not just because a week's time from now, in 7 days in the big house, are they both going to be able to play? And, I was told by somebody close to the situation on Saturday morning that there is still a lot of optimism that both will play, both Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith, against Michigan. Based on what we saw last week, I think Jeremiah Smith is closer to that as we stand here, which is the inverse of the way you saw them walk in, because he actually played in that game. But now the post-game questions will immediately shift away from Rutgers, and I think understandably so, to did playing Jeremiah Smith last week aggravate something, exacerbate something for him that made it where he went from questionable a week ago and played on a limited snap count to totally out against Rutgers? So that's obviously a fair question. Throughout the last 7 days, every indication coming from inside the Woody was he couldn't have made it worse, and he didn't make it worse. So was that true? Is this a true precautionary situation? We really don't know right now.
Yeah, well, we also have no way to know, and Ryan Day is going to be put on the spot after the game, as you said. That's the way that this has been handled, and now you have more questions than you did 2 weeks ago for Ohio State. I think the interesting thing from our perspective is, what does it mean for everyone else? I mean, because the game still has to be played. Yep. So the Buckeyes are going to be put out here, and as I said, Brandon Ennis, Bryson Rogers.
This game or that game?
This game has to be played first, and it makes sense for people to have concern and worry and consternation about next week and beyond, but today's game has to go on, and that means Julian Sayin has to continue to get more comfortable with the receivers that are playing today. So it's an interesting morning, very, very, very calm outside Ohio Stadium as we are recording this just a little after 8:30, preparing for it to go live at 10:15 or whatever today, 10 a.m. But the atmosphere in here is going to have to be a BYO juice type of situation for Ohio State. So senior day, there's going to be a lot of other emotions. It'll be very interesting to me to see how Julian Sayin handles what will probably be a lot of pressure, a lot of zero blitz type stuff from Rutgers to try to take advantage of the fact that his safety blankets are not out there. So big day for the guys that are playing. Big day for the tight ends, as you alluded to on Friday when we were doing bold predictions. But not ideal. I mean, I don't know any other way to say it. So
yeah, and look, nobody's going to want a silver lining, but there's no choice right now. You have to look for that. And Bryson Rogers and Mylan Graham are going to get a lot of opportunities, even Tuesday or Wednesday in Ryan Day's press conferences. These guys have that opportunity in front of them. They're going to have to seize it. And last week was sort of a imperfect cocktail. You had the rain starting, you had Julian Sayin get the ankle injury, and then you also had the lack of in-game chemistry with Mylan and Bryson, and you saw that pop up at times. Now that's overly nitpicking for someone who still completed 75% of his passes, but dealing with this uncertainty or not, Ohio State could be in a position where it comes out of the other side of this, then next week having a healthy Jeremiah, potentially having a healthy Carnell, and then having more confidence that it can turn to Mylan Graham or Bryson Rogers down the stretch, because it didn't do that and didn't have the opportunity really when it was playing at that slower tempo. So that there were injuries for Bryson as well. Quincy Porter's going through that. So everybody's going to have to, I think, make the most of this situation against Rutgers, and it can help if it gets the starters back to full strength when it really matters next week and beyond, great. And if it gives your depth a chance to build chemistry and a rapport with Julian Sayin, even better.
Yeah, it's great if those guys are able to come back. But we're right now, anything about that beyond today would be assumptions. And last week you were told by 4 different people he's definitely going to play this week. So it's hard to look at it and be like, well, yeah, this is going to be fine, because we just don't know.
That's true.
But what should be fine is Ohio State's run game against Rutgers. The Scarlet Knights are the worst in the country against the run, giving up the most yards per carry, most yards per game in Power 4. It's a big opportunity for now a healthy offensive line for Ohio State, one that's starting to gel a little bit, to really be the
Josh Padilla back.
This is a lean on the offensive line type of game. Make sure they protect Julian Sayin and take advantage of Rutgers' porous run defense. So big day ahead, I think, for Bo Jackson and Isaiah West, but also super interested from my perspective to see if James Peoples can capitalize on the momentum he built a week ago against UCLA, and how they mix C.J. Donaldson back into the mix, who will also play today after missing a week ago. So, again, I know the conversation is going to be all about the receivers, but it needs to be about the guys that are actually playing today.
Yeah, and we can't ignore the defense, and the best defense in America. You were digging deep into those numbers to try and find ways that Rutgers could challenge Ohio State. And this is like maybe the best offense that Greg Schiano has had with the Scarlet Knights.
It's the best offense Ohio State's played all season. I mean,
that's crazy.
I include Texas in that. I mean, based on what we've seen from Texas from week 1 to now, this is a balanced offense. They run the ball, they throw the ball. Ethan Kalakmanis says he's a mistake maker, but he's also a chance taker. And so when you have that happen, I expect them to try some stuff on the outside against Davison Igbinosun, Jermaine Matthews, and Devin Sanchez. Try to take the pass interference offense that people have deployed against Ohio State in the past to a new level.
It's the most successful way to attack.
It is. I mean, there's no arguing, but it's a big day, I think, for the receivers. As I said on bold predictions, Rutgers has 3 receivers who have more catches than Carnell Tate. So they spread the ball around, they throw it quickly, and they take some shots. So it's going to be a good test for the defense.
Yeah, and I think this is a game where Caden Curry and Kenyatta Jackson, when they ask for opportunities to rush the passer, this should be one of those. I don't think Kalakmanis is truly going to test with his legs or rushing ability. So go get him. We'll see if Matt Patricia's ready to start layering on some more blitz looks. And he has Arvell Reese at his disposal. He has Caleb Downs at his disposal. Could be a huge day for Sonny Styles as well in his senior day, which is, again, wild to think about how quickly that time has gone for him. But, if we looked at this as training camp 3.0 from Purdue to UCLA to Rutgers, there is a gradual ramp up here, and now you have an offense that could actually give you some looks. And no, he's not Bryce Underwood out here. The skill set is going to be different, but it's at least a balanced offense that Michigan will be trying to use next week. So, if you have some things, if you need to get more reps back on the plate of Arvell Reese, I don't know exactly how they'll balance that, but the starters have barely played over the last couple of weeks, and Ryan Day said that's made them hungry for more contact. That could be bad for the Rutgers offense, but it is still, how are you going to manage that and the health and rest and rust to get ready for next week with that defense, and how much is actually going to be required today?
Yeah, but as you said, with Rutgers, they're tied for 122nd in the nation with sacks allowed, so there's a chance to go get them. So who's it going to be? Because Jarquez Carter's still out for Ohio State in the middle, so it looks like the normal rotation of Edric Houston, Will Smith, Caden McDonald and Taiwan Malone will be your starting four, your main four in the middle. And then I think it's really interesting to see if we can see a Bo Atkinson ascent, because with the way Rutgers plays, with the way they run the ball, they do have a 1,000-yard rusher already this season. Like, I think you might need that guy out there who's not just a pass rusher. So it'll put Caden Curry, I think, it's in conflict because he wants to go so hard and be so aggressive all the time. I'm actually really interested to see this matchup for the Ohio State defense because, again, we've been waiting all year for somebody to have enough balance to kind of push them.
Yeah.
So
maybe a test.
Maybe a test.
We'll see. That kickoff time.
How does the score change in your mind based on what we now know heading into game day?
Yeah,
game time, 3 hours.
I think I'm exactly where I was on Friday and throughout the week because the deficiencies of the Rutgers rush defense, and we saw what Ohio State was able to do against UCLA when it's like, as it's been gradually building and finding more success, whether that's schematically, whether that's personnel, whether that's the running backs that are being able, like everything sort of fit together very well last week. Even the perimeter blocking from the wide receivers who were out there, that was all really encouraging stuff for Ohio State. You saw the results of that. And, UCLA, not a good team. I understand that. One of the worst teams in the country, but Rutgers' rush defense is actually worse than that. There were some talented guys, I think, on that UCLA defense that just...
Especially in the middle, yeah.
The pieces didn't really fit together. But anyway, they found that traction, and it was like, okay, once you leaned on them, even when Ohio State was content to coast to the finish line, it's like, well, they still can't bring any of these running backs to the ground. There's still ample rushing lanes. I think that will happen today. So I still think Ohio State could cruise and blow out Rutgers without even really stressing about its passing attack.
Yeah, I'm going to revise my score. I had 45-17 on bold predictions. I'm going to revise it to 38-17. I'm going to take one touchdown off the board for Ohio State.
Okay.
And I think this is the game into the middle of the third quarter, which is going to be annoying. But I think that it's where we're headed. So we'll see. Little thing called we'll see. And then I implore everyone to watch Ryan Day's post-game press conference on 10 TV because that is probably going to have some interesting conversation, not just about this game, but about Michigan and, of course, about the injury issue with Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate.
And then we'll talk about that, as we always do, on Snap Judgments and the Notebook after the game on 97.1 The Fan's YouTube channel, 10 TV's YouTube channel, 10 TV Plus, and, of course, on the podcast feeds if you want to get them there. But that's it for the pregame keys. So enjoy this game, the last regular season game, the last game in the horseshoe for the seniors. Coming up here, it'll kick off at 12:15 or 12:16, I guess, on Fox. And then we'll be right back here to break it all down with you guys, as always. Thanks for joining us for the pregame keys. He's Jeremy Birmingham. I'm Austin Ward. We'll see you.